kept on pricking and preening in my room. I heard all the other kids go clattering downstairs. I heard Louise and Justine go giggling, sniggering, tittering along the corridor. My face started burning, so that I didn't need my blusher. Then I heard Adele rampaging around because some rotten so-and-so had been in her room and rifled through all of her makeup and mucked it all up. I decided to hang about in my room for a bit longer. I heard the front doorbell. I heard Jenny talking to someone down in the hall. I heard them go into the sitting room. I knew it was time to make my entrance. So I went running down the stairs and barging into the sitting room with this great big smile on my face. It's no use looking sad or sulky if you want people to like you. Mum always tells me to give her a big smile, even when she says goodbye to me. You can't look gloomy or it just upsets people and they don't want any more to do with you. You've got to have this great big smile. Everyone looked up at me when I went into the sitting room, and they all smiled too. Just for a moment, I was daft enough to think that they were all smiling back at me. But then I saw they were the wrong sort of smiles. They were smirks. And Justine and Louise nudged each other and giggled and spluttered and whooped, and Adele glared at me. Peter Ingham was the only one with a proper smile. He came over to me. He was blinking a bit rapidly. "You look nice, Tracy," he said. But I knew he was lying. It was no use kidding myself. It was obvious. I looked a right prat. Jenny's pretty laid back about appearances, but even she looked shocked at the sight of me. And it looked like all that effort was for nothing, because she didn't seem to have the woman writer person with her after all. I've seen women writers on chat shows on the telly. They're quite glamorous, like film stars, with glittery frocks and high heels and lots of jewellery. They look a bit like my mum, only nowhere near as pretty, of course. The woman with Jenny looked like some boring social worker or teacher. Scruffy brown hair, no makeup, scrubby t-shirt and rumpled jeans. A bit like me on an off day, grown up. I decided to slop off back to my bedroom. It seemed sensible to steer clear of Adele anyway, but Jenny caught hold of me by the back of my jumper. "Hang about, Tracy. I thought you wanted to meet Cam Lawson." "Who?" I said. "You know, the writer. I told you," Jenny hissed. Then she lowered her voice even more. "Why are you wearing your winter jumper when it's boiling hot today? And what on earth have you done to your face?" "She thinks she looks pretty," said Justine, and she clutched Louise and they both shrieked. "Pipe down, you two," said Jenny. Tracy! She hung on to me firmly, stopping me barging over to that stupid pair of titters so as I could bang their heads together. "Leave them, Tracy. Come and meet Cam." I wanted to meet this Cam. What sort of a silly name is that, Cam? Even though she didn't look a bit like a proper writer. But I sort of hung back. I'm usually the last person to feel shy, but somehow I suddenly didn't know what to say or what to do. So I growled something at Jenny and twisted away from her and stood in a corner by myself, just watching. Peter came trotting after me. Justine and Louise were still having hysterics at my appearance. You could tell they'd actually got over the giggles by this time. But Justine kept going into further false whoops and Louise was almost as bad. "Don't take any notice of them," Peter whispered. "I don't," I said crossly. "I like your jumper," said Peter, "and your makeup and the new hairstyle." "Then you're mad. It looks a mess. I look a mess, and I look a mess on purpose," I said fiercely. "So you needn't feel sorry for me, Peter Ingham. You just clear off and leave me alone, right?" Peter fidgeted from one foot to the other, looking worried. "Clear off, you stupid little creep," I said. So of course he did clear off then. I wondered why I'd said it. Okay, he is a creep, but he's not really that bad. I'd said he could be my friend, and it was a lot better when he was with me than standing all by myself, watching everyone over the other side of the room, clustered around this Cam person calling herself a writer. She's a weird sort of woman, if you ask me. She was chatting away, and yet you could tell she was really nervous inside. She kept fidgeting with her pen and notebook, and I was amazed to see she bites her nails. She's a great big grown-up woman and yet she does a dopey kids thing like that? Well, she's not great big. She's little and skinny. But even so, my mum has the most beautiful fingernails, long and pointy and polished. She varnishes them every day. I just love the smell of nail varnish. The sharp pear-drop niff that makes your nostrils twitch. Jenny caught me happily sniffing nail varnish one day and do you know what she thought? Only that I was inhaling it like glue sniffing. Did you ever? I let her think it too. I wasn't going to tell her I just like the smell because it reminds me of my mum. I'll tell you another weird thing about Cam, what's it? She sat on one of our rickety old chairs. Her legs are all draped around the rungs and she talked to the children. Most adults that come here talk at the children. They tell you what to do, they go on about themselves, they talk about you, they ask endless stupid questions and they make personal comments. Even the social workers are at it. Or they would strike this special nothing you can say would shock me sweetie pose and they make stupid statements. I guess you're feeling really angry and upset today, Tracy, they titter. When I've wrecked my bedroom or got into a fight or shouted and sworn at someone. So it's obvious I'm angry and upset. They do this to show me that they understand. Only they don't understand peanuts. They're not the ones in care. I am. I thought Cam Thing would ask questions and take down case histories in her notebook and all brisk and organised. But from what I could make out over in the corner, she had a very different way of doing things. She smiled a bit and fidgeted a lot and sort of weighted everybody up, and they all had a good stare at her. Two of the little kids tried to climb onto her lap because they do that to anyone who sits down. It's not because they like the person, it's just they like being cuddled. They'd cry to have a cuddle with a cross-eyed gorilla, I'm telling you. Most strangers to the children's homes get all flattered and make a great big fuss of the littles and come on like Mary Poppins. This Cam seemed a bit surprised and even a bit put out. I don't blame her. Little Wayne in particular has got the runniest nose of all time and he likes to bury his head affectionately into your chest, wiping it all down your front. Cam held him at arm's length and when he tried his burrowing trick, she distracted him by giving him her pen. He liked flickering the catch up and down. She let little Becky have a ride on her foot at the same time so she didn't feel left out and bawl. Becky kept trying to climb up on her leg, pulling her jeans up. Some of Cam's leg got exposed. It was pretty ropey sort of leg if you ask me. A bit hairy for a start. My mum always shaves her legs and she wears the sheer see-through tights to show them off. This Cam had socks like a schoolgirl. They were quite funny, brightly patterned socks. I thought the red and yellow bits were just squares at first, but then I got a bit closer and saw they were books. I wouldn't mind having a pair of socks like that myself if I'm going to write all these books. She's written books, old Cammy. Cammy Knicker. The other kids asked her and she told them. She said she wrote some stories, but they didn't sell much, so she also wrote some romantic stuff. She doesn't look the romantic type to me. Adele got interested then because she loves all those soapy love books. And Cam told her some titles and the boys all tittered and went yuck yuck. And Jenny got a bit narked, but Cam said she didn't mind. They were mostly yuck, but she couldn't help it if that's what people like to read. Then they all started talking about reading. Maxie said he liked this book called Where the Wild Things Are because the boy in it is called Max. And Cam said she knew that book and she made a wild thing face and then everybody else did too, except me. I mean, I didn't want to join a dopey game like that. My face did twitch a bit, but then I remembered all the makeup and I knew I'd look really stupid. Besides, I'd got her sussed out. I could see what she was up to. She was finding out all sorts of things, all the kids, without asking any nosy questions. Maxie went on about his dad being a wild thing. Adele went on about love. Of course, real life wasn't like that. And love didn't ever last, and people split up and sometimes didn't even go on loving their children. Even little creepy Peter piped up about these Catherine Cookson books that his nan used to like, and he told Cam how he used to read them to her because her eyes had gone all blurry. And then his eyes went all blurry too, remembering his nan. and Cam's hand reached out sort of awkwardly. She didn't quite manage to hold his hand. She just sort of tapped his bony wrist sympathetically. My nan's dead too, and my mum. They're both together in heaven now. Angels like, said Louise, lisping a bit. She always does that. Puts on this sweet little baby act when they're grown-ups about. Like she was a little angel herself. Ha! Our little Louise can be even worse than me when she wants to. She'd had 3 foster placements. No, was it 4? Anyway, none of them worked out, but Louise always swore she didn't care. We used to have this pact that we'd do our best not to get fostered at all, and we'd stay together at the home till we got to be 18, and then we'd get them to house us together, in our own modern flat. We'd got it all planned out. Louise even started thinking about our furniture, the ornaments, the posters on the walls, and then Justine came and everything was spoiled. Oh, how I hate that Justine Littlewood. I'm glad I broke her silly Mickey Mouse alarm clock. I'd like to break her into little bits and all. Anyway, Louise lisped on about angels, and I'll give that Cam her due. She didn't go all simpery and sentimental and pat Louise on her curly head and talk about the little darling. She stayed calm and matter of fact and started talking about angels and wondering what they would look like. That's simple, miss. They've got these big wings and long white nighties and those gold plate things stuck on the back of their heads, said Justine. Draw one for me, said Cam, offering her pen and notebook. OK, said Justine, though she can't draw for toffee. Then she had a close look at the pen in her hand. Here is a Mickey Mouse pen. Look, Louise, see the little Mickey? Oh, miss, where did you get this pen? It's great. I love Mickey. I do. I've got this Mickey Mouse alarm clock. My dad gave it to me, only some pig broke it deliberately. Justine looked over her shoulder and glared at me. I glared back, making out I couldn't care any less. And I couldn't. My face started burning, but that was just because of my mohair sweater. Justine drew her stupid angel and Cam nodded at it. Yes, that's the way people usually draw angels. She looked at Louise. So is this the way you imagine your mum and your nan? Well, sort of, said Louise. It's that sort of nightie that your nan would wear. And what about that halo, the gold plate bit? Would that fit neatly onto her little hairstyle? Louise giggled uncertainly, not sure what she was getting at. You draw me what you think your mum and nan would look like as angels, said Cam. Louise started, but she can't draw much either, and she kept scribbling over what she'd drawn. This is silly, she said, giving up. I knew what Cam was on about. I'd done a really great drawing of Louise's mum and nan in a natty angel's outfits. I'll draw you an angel, miss, said Maxie, grabbing at the pen. I'll draw me as an angel, and I'll have big wings so I can fly like an aeroplane. Yow, yow. He went on making his dopey aeroplane noises all the time he was drawing. Then the others had a go, even the big ones. I got a bit nearer and craned my neck to see what they'd all drawn. I didn't think any of them were very inspired. I knew exactly what I'd draw if she asked me. It wouldn't be a silly old angel. Then Cam looked up. She caught my eye. She did ask me. Have a go, she said, dead casual. I gave this little shrug as if I couldn't care less, then I sauntered forward very slowly. I held out my hand for the pen. This is Tracy, said Jenny, poking her big nose in. She's the only one who wants to be a writer. I felt my face start burning again. What, her? Said Justine. You've got to be joking. Now, Justine, said Jenny, Tracy's written heaps and heaps in her life book. Yeah, but it's all rubbish, said Justine, and her hand shot out and she made a grab underneath my jumper, where I was keeping this book for safety. I'd bashed out at her, but I wasn't quick enough. She snatched the book from me before I could stop her. Give that here, I shrieked. It's rubbish, I tell you, listen, said Justine, and she opened my book and started reading in her silly, high-pitched baby voice. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Tracy Beaker. And that sounds stupid, and no wonder, because I am stupid and I wet the bed and... Oh! Things got a bit hazy after that. But I got my book back, and Justine's nose became a wonderful scarlet fountain. I was glad. I wanted her whole body to spout blood, but Jenny had a hold of me by this time, and she was shouting for Mike, and I got hauled off to the quiet room. Only I wasn't quiet in there. I yelled my head off. I went on yelling when Jenny came to try and calm me down, and then Jenny went away and someone else came into the room. I wasn't sure who it was at first because when I yell my eyes screw up and I can't see properly. Then I made out the jeans and the t-shirt and the shock of hair, and I knew it was Cam Who's It. And then that made me burn all over until I felt like a junior Joan of Arc. There was me throwing a hairy fit, and there she was standing there watching me. I don't care about people like Jenny or Elaine seeing me. They're used to it. Nearly all children in care have a roaring session once in a while. I have them more than once, actually. And I usually just let rip, but now I feel like a right raving loony in front of her. But I didn't stop yelling all the same. There was no point. She'd already seen me at it and heard me too. She didn't try to stop me. She wasn't saying a word. She was just standing there, and she had this awful expression on her face. I couldn't stand it. She looked sorry for me. I wasn't having that. So I told her to go away, and that's putting it politely. I yelled some very rude words at her, and she just sort of shrugged and nodded and went off. I was left screaming and swearing away all by myself. But I'm okay now. I'm not in the quiet room anymore. I stayed in there for such a long time. And I even had my tea in there on a tray, but now I'm in my bedroom and I've been writing and writing and writing away, and it looks like I can't help being a writer. I've written so much, I've got a big lump on one of the longest fingers on my right hand. I used to play this daft game with my fingers. I'd make them into a family. There was a mummy finger and a daddy finger, a big brother Freddy finger, pretty little pinky finger, and a baby thumbkin. I'd give myself a little puppet show with them, making them jump about, and I'd take them for walks up and down the big hill of my leg, and I'd tuck them up for the night in my hanky. Baby Camilla used to like that game ever so much. I'd give the finger family different squeaky voices, and I'd make them talk to her, and take it in turns to tap her tiny little nose, and she'd always chuckle so much her whole body jumped up and down. I don't half miss Camilla. Hey, sudden thought. Cam. Is Cam short for Camilla? I was delighted at breakfast to see that Justine has a swollen nose and a sticking plaster on it. The swollen nose matches her swollen head. Justine Littlewood thinks she's really it, and she isn't. I truly don't get what Louise sees in her. If I were Louise, I'd much sooner be Tracy's best friend. What really gets me is that I was the one who palled up with Justine first. She turned up at the home one evening all down and droopy because her mum had cleared off with some bloke and left Justine and her two little brothers and her dad to get on with it. Only her dad couldn't get on with it, and the kids got taken into care. The brothers got into a short-term foster home because they were still nearly at the baby stage and not too much bother. But Justine didn't get taken on too because they thought she'd be difficult. Generally like kids who are difficult. And I thought I liked the look of Justine and the sound of her. Because after that first droopy evening, she suddenly found her tongue and she started sounding off at everyone, getting really stroppy and swearing. She knew even more swear words than I do. She was like that all week, but she shut up on Sunday. Her dad was supposed to see her on Sunday. She was sitting waiting for him right after breakfast, though he wasn't supposed to come till 11 o'clock. 11 came and went, and 12, and then it was dinner time, and Justine wouldn't eat her chicken. She sat at the window all afternoon, not budging. My tummy went tight whenever I looked at her. I knew what it was like. I used to sit like that. Not just here. I used to wait at both my crummy foster homes and the children's homes in between, waiting for my mum to come. But now I've got myself sorted out. No more dumb sitting about for me, because my mum's probably too far away to come for a quick visit. Yeah, that's it. She's probably abroad somewhere. She's always fancied travelling. Maybe she's in France or Spain. She likes the sunshine. What am I thinking of? She'll have gone to the States, maybe even Hollywood. My mum looks so great that she easily could get into a movie. You can't hop on a bus and visit your daughter when you're hundreds of thousands of miles away in Hollywood now, can you? All the same, even though I don't sit waiting, I always go a bit tingy when there's a knock at the door. I hold my breath waiting to see who it is, just in case. So I could understand what old Justine was going through. I didn't try to talk to her because I knew she'd snap my head off, but I sort of slided up to her and dropped a lollipop on her lap and backed away. It wasn't exactly my lollipop. I'd snaffled several from little Wayne. His dopey mum is younger than Adele, and she hasn't got a clue about babies. Whenever she comes, she brings Wayne lollipops. Well, they've got sticks, haven't they? We don't want little Wayne getting himself a poke in the eye, and he's normally so drooly that if you add a lot of lolly lick as well, he gets stickier than superglue. So, it's really a kindness to nick his lollies when he's not looking. But why did you want to give one to that Justine? Louise asked. She's horrible, Tracy. She barged right into me on the stairs yesterday and she didn't even say sorry. She just called me a very rude word indeed. Louise whispered it primly. Did she really say that? I said, giggling. Oh, she's not so bad really. And anyway, I didn't give her the red lollipop. I saved that for you. Thanks, Trace, said Louise, and she beamed at me. Oh, we were like that in those days.